Welcome, fellow castigators. The creator of VeggieTales, Phil Vischer, has a podcast here on YouTube called The Holy Post, which is a brilliant name, by the way. The Holy Post has been releasing content on the upcoming presidential election quite consistently, but there was one video in particular that really caught my attention. This one is titled, "Religious Liberty is Not in Danger," featuring New York Times columnist David French. Based on his article, "The Christian Persecution Narrative Rings Hollow." This idea perplexed me, considering the Bible makes it clear that Christians of every kind will be persecuted until the end of days. Well, French begins the video by telling us that Christianity in America is stronger than it's ever been, but almost immediately contradicts himself by bringing up how there used to be prayer in school. He even mentions there aren't a significant number of people from any religion to dominate American life. This is perfectly true, but doesn't actually help his case. You see, the USA was a Christian majority country. Not only was the country built on Christian morality, but as recently as 1990, 80% of adults identified as Christians, dropping down to just 65%. The per capita on these numbers must be staggering, considering Caucasians, who are the majority, are only 42% Christian today. Clearly, acceptance of Christianity has dropped significantly. Funnily enough, all that is way beside the point. David French's theory is that the seeming governmental persecution of Christians is simply an overcorrection of the Establishment Clause, which keeps the U.S. from establishing an official religion. This was used to do things like dismantle the aforementioned school prayer. Except that that was in the 60s, and I highly doubt many politicians are thinking about it today. When Kamala Harris kicked people out of a rally for saying Christ is king, I very much doubt that she was just trying to respect the Establishment Clause. French goes on to posit that the Supreme Court will shield us from persecution. Tell me, where was the Supreme Court when churches faced discrimination during the pandemic? Where was the Supreme Court when little old ladies were jailed for being let into the Capitol by police and then nicely staying inside the ropes? Finally, French makes the point that we have religious safety under Title IX. It's funny you should mention that, since the Biden administration's new ruling on Title IX strips women of their privacy and safety by redefining sex to include gender identity. If they are willing and able to do such a thing to half the population, then what do you think they can do to Christians? Furthermore, affirmative action is a huge violation of Title IX, since you literally have to discriminate against certain races, genders, and even sexualities. And yet, DEI has been rolled out throughout the whole government and is installed in almost every major institution in the country. No one has been forced to dismantle it, and no one has been prosecuted for this travesty. David French's problem is that he thinks too legalistically. This is a good example of the difference between intelligence and wisdom. David French is a very intelligent man who knows the law very well, but he lacks the wisdom to think outside of the box and infer the implications of the things that are happening around him. His arguments only stand up if you assume that the government isn't going to break its own laws. But a wise man knows differently. A wise man can see how a satanic ideology has swept the nation. This is now a country where Venezuelan gangs can take over apartment complexes, a place where foreigners are allowed to vote, a place where you are free to castrate your children, a place where you can go to a protest outside the Capitol and burn flags, chant for the death of America, vandalize statues, and not get prosecuted. A place where you can line up for a free baby murder at a van outside the DNC. Where has the Supreme Court been during this time of suffering? Where is the law? Where is justice? This is an immoral ideology which makes Christianity a natural target. Christianity is one of the most easily vilified religions among the elites, because unlike other religions, such as Islam, they know that the Christians will not become angry and fight back. Just look at our sister country, England, that has allowed this ideology to grow. Christianity is no longer the dominant religion, despite its establishment. The most popular baby name is Muhammad, and the leaders are known communists. Recently, a Muslim terrorist stabbed 3 little girls, and the men protesting the act were arrested because the courts labeled criticism of Islam as racist. The groups of machete-wielding anti-protesters, however, walked free. This is the future America is marching towards, almost beat for beat. Now, I want to clarify that I don't say these things to fearmonger or blackpill. I strongly feel that Christians should not be ruled by fear. We know that God has already won the war, and there is no need for anxiety. America, and the whole world for that matter, may be marching towards its doom, but Christians march to victory, no matter the persecution that gets in the way. That being said, Christians can and should be active regarding the injustices of the world. We could still be realistic and recognize how bad things have gotten in this country without unnecessary fear. The Bible does not forbid us from being honest and practical. The Holy Post, however, has tried to do exactly that. They are highly critical of Christians who showed the slightest concern for the future, those who believe Christianity is important to the foundations of America, and those who would strive to expose DEI grifters. To bolster these points, the podcast features guests who are usually acting in bad faith. An example of this is Rob Reiner, a Hollywood director who made a documentary called God and Country, which warns of the alleged rise of Christian nationalism, which features interview segments with Phil Vischer. So we're not supposed to worry about what the elites are doing, but we're meant to be quaking in our boots about Christian nationalism. Now, anyone who knows anything about Rob Reiner knows that he is a Jewish man who hates Christians with a burning passion. His documentary isn't a concerned and loving take on the future of Christianity, but rather a bad faith attempt to convince Christians to shut up. That's what this is all really about. All this nonsense about Christians being complacent and pacifistic is a con to get them to shut up. The Holy Post has unfortunately become an unknowing purveyor of this con, giving voice to guest after guest who wants nothing more than Christians to shut up, accept the prosperity gospel teachings, and give them money. I have a great respect for Phil Vischer and his work, so I'm very disappointed in this active effort to turn a blind eye to real problems. He seems to have acquired a great distaste for MAGA folks, which I understand, but when our government is allowing illegals to murder and traffic our women and children left and right, is Make America Great Again such a bad slogan? Look, I'm no Trump apologist. I don't even want to tell you who to vote for or what to think. I just want you to stop and consider everything that has happened in the past 4 years. Can you, as a Christian, endorse those things in good conscience? Can you vote for the chaos and violence to continue? On Tuesday, you have the power to be a force for social change. Please, don't abandon your moral principles just because David French says that you can trust the Supreme Court. Instead, trust in God and pray that He would lead you to make the right decision. Thanks for listening.